The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Consecutive typhoons, Jolina and Kiko devastated some areas in Luzon. In his report to the President this morning, NDRRMC Undersecretary Ricardo Halad said around 160 areas from Regions 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 have been inundated. He assured, though, that most floods have subsided as of last night. He added that some 11,000 individuals from Regions 4 and 8 have been displaced by the typhoons. Meanwhile, 14 deaths have been confirmed while others are still being validated. 7 people are reported missing and 20 have suffered injuries due to the typhoons. The typhoon has also caused 256 million pesos worth of damages in agriculture, and over 6,400 houses and infrastructure were also partially damaged.
There were reports of incident and flooding, 160 flooded areas, 14 dead, 1 died due to landslide incident in Laurel, Batangas. Other deaths are still for validation, and damages to agriculture about 256 million pesos.
The Commission on Higher Education appeals to President Duterte to expand face-to-face classes to non-health courses. Also in this morning's meeting, DepEd Chairman Prospero de Vera proposes to expand limited physical classes to engineering, HRM, and maritime programs. De Vera highlights that over 9,700 students and 1,000 faculty members in medical courses have been vaccinated. Only less than 1% contracted the virus during the conduct of face-to-face classes. Recall that DepEd has already allowed 130 higher education institutions to conduct face-to-face classes for medical and allied courses.
Kaya ang hiling, Mr. President, ay baka pwedeng i-expand na natin ito sa ibang programa na kailangan din talaga ng limited face-to-face. Ito lang po muna ang uunahin natin kasi dito kailangan talaga ng skills, lalo na si engineering.
Government officials and health experts are still debating over whether it was right that the use of face shields was made mandatory. But exactly how effective are face shields in preventing COVID infections? A wind engineering expert weighs in this report by Teresa Urmatam.
Noon sabi ko na tanggalin na ninyo ng facial. Pero nung dumating itong variant na Delta, natakot ako. Yun, mali ko yun.
Gulat tayo, bilyon-bilyon ang ginastos ninyo sa face shield. Gamot na muna kaysa plastic.
Politics aside, how effective are face shields against COVID-19? Civil engineer Joshua Agar, who also specializes in wind engineering, puts the plastic barrier to the test. In a computer simulation, Agar observed the negative air pressure in a high momentum case, where a person who's coughing stands a meter away from someone wearing a face shield.
Pag sinabi pong negative pressure, parang suction po yung nangyari. So papunta po dun lahat ng airborne particles. So tracking naman po yung blue, makikita nyo na nandito yung blue na portion. So dito, doon po nahihigop papunta yung mga airborne particles.
As seen here, there's a negative pressure between the face and the plastic as airborne particles are sucked into the small gap. Agar also observed negative air pressure in low momentum cases or when a person is in an environment with a certain concentration of the virus or with airborne particles lingering in the air.
Check niyo po yung velocity, meron pong mga vortices swirl dito. Then from above, meron din nagsiswirl. Then meron pang nagre-reverse na flow na galing sa leg mo, paakyat.
The World Health Organization maintains that face shields should be used while there's an ongoing surge in the country. Engineer Agar can only hope that the government will hear more scientific research on the usage of face shields. He also wishes that preventive measures are more budget-friendly.
Establish po natin na yung face shields are physical interventions rather than medical ones.
Because his study was only done through computer simulation, Agar is also urging other researchers to conduct physical simulations to test the face shield's effectiveness.
Now, here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Meralco announced a power rate hike this month due to higher generation charge. The power distributor will increase its overall rate by around 10 centavos per kilowatt hour, bringing the overall rate to 9 pesos and 10 centavos from the August rate of 9 pesos per kilowatt hour. This means that households consuming 200 kilowatt hours in average per month will see a 21 peso increase in their total bill, while those consuming 500 kilowatt hours will see a 52 pesos increase in their bill. SSS has launched its Usap Atayo portal to provide users with faster and easier access to SSS information and an additional facility for sending their concerns. The portal is a one-step self-service portal that can be accessed through mobile phones, tablets, or computers. The launch of the Usap Tayo portal is in line with the agency's commitment to aim for digitalization by providing more convenient ways and efficient transaction channels for its stakeholders and the public. And U.S. finance capital Wall Street has been reshaped time and again, first after the 9/11 bombing and now as the pandemic wreaks havoc upon the world's economy. This Bloomberg Quick Take tells us more.
Between 9/11 and the pandemic, I'm wondering if Wall Street and Manhattan, if they have the same financial presence as they did in the 20th century.
Well, I think they have. They've just sort of relocated in different places. About more than 50% of the people living in downtown were employed by Wall Street firms. That's now down to something like 30%. Many of the firms have moved out. HSBC is moving uptown very soon. So we've redistributed Wall Street in many ways, but the financial industry is still extremely important in New York City.
Do you think that, Marty, that repositioning, at least physically, is more of a result of post 9/11 or of the financial crisis?
Well, I think it's post 9/11, but it was more of an evolutionary thing rather than any kind of government policy. You know, there are developments like the Hudson Yards on the west side throughout Manhattan that have made companies very attractive to have workers there. So it's been a kind of an evolutionary process rather than a concerted policy.
Shonali, you cover Wall Street, and look, personally, you also grew up in an area just 20 minutes away from the World Trade Center. I know many people close to where you are from were affected by this. I'm wondering how Wall Street CEOs are marking this solemn anniversary.
Yeah, and remember, they have been remembering this day far beyond the anniversary. If you go in, for example, to the office of Howard Lutnick, who is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, it looks like a 9/11 memorial. There is so much there, and even more so than any Deal tombstones or anything. So, and to your point, I did grow up 20 minutes outside of here. You know, I was only in the 6th grade, but there was a girl in my class who had lost her father, and we had to watch the towers get hit on screen. So you will never forget those images, you know, mothers, brothers, sisters, you know, lost in this tragedy. You know, one story that I would guide my audience to that was shared more than a year ago by a Morgan Stanley employee was that of Rick Rescorla. There's a the New Yorker story that says by Jim Stewart that is entitled "The Real Heroes Are Dead," and it's about the security officer at Morgan Stanley who saved thousands and thousands of lives, but had lost his own life in the towers.
Marty, did the image of a Wall Streeter or a banker, did it change after 9/11? I mean, I think about the movie American Psycho, which came out in the year 2000 and has this, yuppie portrayal, or Gordon Gekko and Wall Street in the 1980s. Did that image change?
I think it did. I think that bankers became much more sympathetic figures, and especially in the context of people thinking about their families, and people like Howard Lutnick, who basically had his business wiped out in a space of an hour and rebuilt and provided millions of dollars in aid to the families of those victims, humanized Wall Street in a way, tragically, that very few things could.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 1 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.